for announcements. I'm going to introduce our guest speaker tonight. This should be Leslie's position, but he said since I kind of work with Chad a little bit. The first time I saw this young man, he was in a Confederate uniform and very impressive. And he is a seasonal interpreter down in Fort Bishop. And he gives a very nice tour. So if you ever get the chance to take the tour down there, of course you have the old standbys, Ray and Leland, but Chad does a nice job. Chad is a history major at UNCW. And anything else I should tell you, Chad?
That's good enough.
I'd like to present Chadwick Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Lander. How you doing, guys? Doing good tonight? Well, first off, I want to thank y'all very much for having me down tonight, and Mr. Leslie here especially for inviting me. I came down to the fort a couple months ago and got talking and found out who it was. I heard his name for 3 years and never saw his face. So they asked me to come down and talk about what I've kind of been into the last year and a half or so. And you guys hear me in the back? I'm gonna cut this mic on anyway. But you know, everybody has heard the story of Fort Fisher. You know, the massive sand bastion, you know, a couple miles down the road here where the massive battles took place there at the end of the Civil War. And that's what I've been to, you know, for the past few years. I've always been to the Civil War. I live and breathe it, love it, have since I was 3 years old. But there was a whole other story that went on this river during the Civil War. And that was over there on the Old Inlet across the river at Fort Caswell, Fort Holmes, and Bald Head Island, in that area. And that's a story that very few people ever get to hear, really. Everybody always hears about Fort Fisher, the big battles in the Wilmington campaign. But that's the only thing I'm here to talk to you guys about tonight. It's just, my whole objective tonight is just to let you in and to make you understand that there was this whole other picture, this whole other story going on across the harbor over there at Old Inlet, between Fort Caswell, Fort Holmes, and Bald Head Island, and so on. And that's barely told, and that's been pretty much overlooked. So that's why I'm here, trying to bring it back up. But I'm just curious, I just want to know, do you guys have any impressions at all of Fort Caswell during the Civil War? Do you know anything about it whatsoever?
No.
Have you ever heard anything about it? Did you even know it was in the Civil War? That's how unknown, I mean, it really is. A lot of people don't really, I mean, it's been through, it was built, you know, by early 1830s, so it served through the Mexican War, the Civil War, Spanish-American War, World I and World II, till it was finally decommissioned. But, see, that's one. So nobody has any impression of it from the Civil War at all? Good. That's why I was open. So now I can lie. You guys won't know it's true or not. But just let me get a slide. Sure. But how I got into this, actually, I've been, as Ms. Bolander told you, I'm a UNCW student. Have been for quite a few years now. But I got there and met Dr. Caswell, who many of you guys know very well, I'm sure. And so I've been studying under him for, you know, well over 5 years. Civil War is my area. My head is my passion and my love. So we've come pretty close over the years, and I've learned a lot of it. And we got together about 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, and I did a directed individual study with him. And we're trying to figure out what to do. Basically, all that is a one-on-one class. We meet a couple times a week, one-on-one, instead of having a class to ridiculous. And finally we figured out that I should do Fort Caswell. You know, there's hardly anything done on it. Nobody knows anything about it. So why not? So that's how I kind of started this whole saga, I guess you could call it. So for the past year and a half, I've been hitting it pretty hard, and I found some good stuff about it. And it's a fascinating story, and try to share with you guys this evening. Just give you a brief glimpse into Fort Caswell during the Civil War and what happened. And if you guys have any questions, please don't wait till the end. Just jump right in and hammer away. I'd love as much interaction as possible. And we'll get started here. You guys got any questions? But like I was saying, the big battles of Fort Fisher occurred a couple miles right down the road from where we're sitting this very moment. This is a story you always hear about the Wilmington area during the Civil War, and rightfully so. I mean, this was the biggest land-sea battles of the whole war, and it was the largest combined operation until D-Day in World War II. And so rightfully so, it takes place there. Much of the story of Fort Caswell is the same story of Fort Fisher. They both did the exact same thing, just a few miles apart. And this is protecting this precious port of Wilmington, North Carolina, that by later in the war became a lifeline of the Confederacy. These blockade runners, such as Robert E. Lee, bring in all this crucial supplies, these rifles, cannons, ordnance, medical supplies, liquors, food, and all that kind of stuff. So, but all Fort Caswell did, Fort Caswell was the Fort Fisher of Old England. Fort Fisher protected New England. Fort Caswell was the stronghold of Old England. It protected these ships darting for the Confederate heartland, bringing in these precious supplies. As shown here, this is supposed to be a new painting that came out. So the blockade runner getting chased by the USS Malvern. You see there behind it. And there it is. I thought a guy named Lieutenant Colonel John Douglas Taylor, who was stationed around the mouth of the river here during the late war, put it best. He said the importance of Wilmington cannot be overestimated. And it's considered that for more than 2 years, the Southern armies and largely the Southern people as a whole were supplied by imports through Wilmington. And but for Fort Fisher and Fort Caswell, the Confederacy could not sustain the effort. What else? You certainly mentioned, Old England and New England I was talking about. In case you guys aren't familiar with the geography of the area here, I'm just going to point it out real quick. Here is Fort Fisher, right here. Everybody see that? This was New England here, that Fort Fisher protected. And Wilmington had 2 inlets, not just one. So over here, this Bald Head Island you see right here, this big point mass here. And over here is a little fingertip island called Oak Island. And that is where Fort Caswell was and still is. Still go see today. And so you can see, this was not the only inlet, the only important inlet here. There was also an old inlet down here. And that's exactly what Fort Caswell protected for the entire war until Fort Fisher fell and forced it back west. This is just a blow-up shot, so you can see very close here. There's a good quote from Admiral David D. Porter, who commanded the naval attacks on Fort Fisher here in 1864 and 1865. And talking about these 2 inlets here. He said blockading Wilmington was like a bunch of cats watching 2 rat holes. But the blockade runners running in one inlet and then coming back out the other when you least expect it. And so these dual inlets made it virtually impossible for these U.S. blockaders to clog both holes at the same time with the limited amount of ships and manpower that they had. And this is Oak Island. You guys have been to and heard a lot about Fort Fisher here. Well, these were the fortifications over here on Oak Island I just pointed out, down south below Fort Fisher here. You can see Fort Caswell here. Have any of you guys been to Fort Caswell? Some of you have. Okay. You guys know where the Coast Guard station is over there? This is exactly where the Coast Guard station is today. The Coast Guard station sits on top of what was Battery Campbell, which was a big fortification on itself, 16 gun, 2 more to work here. And actually, they say one of the buildings sits on one of the old traverses of Battery Campbell. So next time you ride by there, we'll go there, that's where Battery Campbell is. And then in between Battery Campbell and Fort Caswell over there, right on the beach, was this Battery Shaw, just a little 1 gun work. And then there was, they can see here, Fort Caswell, which was an old, most of you guys know, this fort was not built during the Civil War. This place, the fort was built, started in 1826 and ended by 1838. It was a masonry fort, in case you guys hadn't seen it, been over there. Just like Fort Sumter, Fort Moultrie, Fort Pulaski, all these other forts were built in the same room right after the War of 1812. This is actually a view of Old Inlet, the inlet that Fort Caswell protected here during the war. This is the view you would have had if you were on board a U.S. blockade ship. And that's what these are depicted here. And you see Fort Holmes, this is Bald Head Island right here. And that was Fort Holmes right here. And actually the lighthouse is in the picture that's cut out there. And this is, obviously what it is, Fort Caswell over here. You see? And this was the old inlet here, which is the only inlet today. They closed off New Inlet in the 1880s. And so this is how all our shipping comes in and out of here today.
Well, did they depend on the fort to shoot the ships, or did they depend on federal ships to shoot the runners?
Say that one time, too.
How were they trying to stop the ships going in and out of Old Inlet?
Fort Caswell and the forts were protecting the blockade runners, bringing in the supplies.
So they were shooting federal.
Yes, ma'am. These forts were built to keep the U.S. ships out. And the idea was these blockade runners would come in at night loaded with the supplies, and hopefully they would get close enough so when the U.S. blockaders recognized they're around or heard of or saw whatever, by the time they got going, the blockade runners could sneak in and get under protection of the big cannons of the forts. They'd go on up to Wilmington to offload their supplies, or be sent to places like General Robert E. Lee's Army. This place became General Robert E. Lee's lifeline pretty much in 1864, 1865, when all the other southern nations, southern ports were falling. And actually, the story of Fort Caswell during the Civil War actually starts before the Civil War began, officially. Some of the first hostile action of the whole war occurred right here in our backyard. That a lot of people don't know about. It's a great story. I'm just going to briefly tell you about it. But everybody knows Charleston. This is this picture. You see Charleston up here, Fort Sumter right here in the middle, and all the batteries that were built during the Civil War. But when this whole Fort Sumter crisis was going on, before the shots were fired, citizens of the lower Cape Fear here started getting worried. Because what happened in Charleston is General Robert Anderson, the guy who commanded Fort Sumter during the outbreak in April 1861, he was over here on Sullivan's Island at Fort Moultrie, but he destroyed Fort Moultrie, burned it, and relocated to Fort Sumter over here, where eventually a couple months later, where the opening battle of the Civil War took place. And citizens of the lower Cape Fear saw this. And keep in mind here, Fort Sumter is an old fortification built. This is a sister fort of Fort Caswell. Same kind of fort, same one. So citizens of the Cape Fear kind of thought to themselves, these guys are just occupied and are attempting to reinforce Fort Sumter. They can do that right here in our backyard at Fort Caswell. Because there were North Carolina not seceded yet. They had no Confederate troops in the area, so this Fort Caswell was just sitting up, waiting to be occupied. So, a couple of guys from Wilmington took it upon themselves to cure this problem very quickly. Some of you guys might recognize this guy. This is Colonel John J. Hedrick, who would become Colonel John J. Hedrick during the Civil War. But John J. Hedrick headed up this group they called themselves the Cape Fear Minutemen after their revolutionary ancestors. And a couple of these guys basically, in layman's terms, grabbed their shotguns, hopped in a boat, went downstream to Fort Caswell, and demanded its surrender from the U.S. Ordnance Sergeant there. And said they were confiscating all the ordnance stores, and they were taking over Fort Caswell. And there was like 30 of these guys, okay? And basically, a gang of politicians and merchants and farmers got together and knocked the trip down the river.
This is early 61.
This is before the Civil Wars even started.
Yeah.
This is January of I'm sorry, I didn't mention date, I'm sorry. This is January of 1861, 3 months before the firing on Fort Sumter, before the Civil War even began. So these guys go down there in early January and take the fort. Hold the ordnance sergeant at gunpoint, get the keys to the magazines, and start mounting cannons on top of it. you know, and like I told you, they were scared it was to be reinforced by U.S. soldiers. And they were half right and they're half wrong. They got down there and they found that it had in fact been reinforced by a brand new baby boy. The ordnance sergeant, Darting Killer on Fort Caswell was named, the name of Darting Killer. His wife gave him birth 2 nights before they got there. So they were like half wrong. No U.S. soldiers, but it had been reinforced by one person. And then we arrived over here. And this, as you can probably guess, just before we get started good, you know. And this event made the front page of the New York Times. This is a clipping from the New York Times, I think 2 days later. Fort Johnson and Caswell were taken possession of on the night by Smithfield Army. This was an international event. You know, this was not some backyard event that got swept under the rug. This was a big menace. And
Straighten me out.
yes, ma'am.
Smithfield Guard would have been local, like from what's now Southport. But usually these politicians came downriver from Wilmington.
Right. It was a combination of groups. It was a Smith.
They picked up some reinforcements along the way.
They met up at the Carolina Hotel downtown Wilmington. Some people came up from Smithfield. There was a group. What were they called? They weren't called the Smithfield. What were they called, Mr. Leslie? You remember the Smithfield? It was like Smithfield Militia, pretty much, not the word. But everybody gathered up at the Carolina Hotel in Wilmington, then left. But see, this is not a right deal.
That could have been a mistake by the New York Times.
Yeah, this is a mistake. There's only like a couple of guys from Smithfield there, but they weren't even called the Smithfield Guard. It's totally wrong. That's just another newspaper there. That's good. But just my point here, you know, this was an international event. I mean, these guys, without the authority from Raleigh, from the governor and the state, these guys just take off and go down there with shotguns and take over Fort Caswell. You know, you can imagine what the governor thinks when he hears about this the next morning. He's like, God almighty, what am I supposed to do with this? So this is Governor John W. Ellis. This is the guy who has to deal with this mess. And so he immediately sends somebody down to Fort Caswell and says, guys, I don't know what you're doing, but stop it. Go home. And that's basically what he does, and that's basically what they do. They apologize, and they're not exactly wholeheartedly apologize, but they officially apologize for the incident, and eventually, 2 days later, they return the keys to the ordnance sergeant, and everybody goes home. And so now Ellis has to answer for this. You know. So he writes President Buchanan and says, look, I'm sorry, you know, this won't happen again. Because, guys, you got to keep in mind here, this is 3 months before the war started. North Carolina still has a lot of Union sentiment, a lot. And it wasn't until they fired on Fort Sumter, and then Lincoln called for troops to suppress rebellion, that North Carolina actually was finally decided to sleep. But anyway, he apologized. But President Buchanan tells him, he says, it's okay this time. I'm paraphrasing here, obviously. But he says, okay, but if it happens again, I cannot escape my constitutional obligation to protect and defend these forts. So pretty much, basically, the line's drawn now. If these guys do this again, North Carolina and the United States are going to war. And that'll come back into play here. Okay, well, a couple months go by. Everything kind of just calms down around here. But, and like I just said, the firing of Fort Sumter occurs. This changes everything. And it wasn't really the firing of Fort Sumter, but more so right after that battle, the newly elected President Abraham Lincoln calls for 75,000 troops to suppress the Southern Rebellion. Well, now this changes everything. He calls on North Carolina and says, give me 2 regiments to suppress this rebellion, and send it to Washington immediately for service. And you kind of got to see what kind of situation this is here. That's like asking, you know, somebody from out of your household asking you to take up arms against your sister, you know, or your brother or something like that. You know, your sister's stayed right. North Carolina's right in the heart of it. So basically, with this request from Lincoln, Governor Ellis sends him one more last No, one last letter. And in it, he basically says, look, paraphrasing again, obviously here. But he says, look, 3 months ago that was one thing. Now you've asked me for troops, from my state, to suppress rebellion, against my sister states. It's like, I'm sorry, but you can get no troops from North Carolina. And a couple weeks later, North Carolina leaves May 20th, 1860. And so as soon as Lincoln sent this request for troops, and Ellis sent that reply back saying no troops, he gets this guy, Colonel John L. Campbell, the old Wilmingtonian from the road here, old Mexican War veteran, pretty much the highest ranking official around. He's not a politician or merchant like this last guy. But he sends Cantwell and a group of guys to go, says, go take Caswell and Fort Johnson, which is what they call Smithfield. He says, go take them now and hold them against all comers at all costs. And that's what they do. They go down and seize Fort Caswell again and Fort Johnson. And then a couple weeks later, North Carolina finally seceded. And the Civil War history, the official Civil War history of Fort Caswell had now started. Just a little side note to end this story here. Does anybody recognize this guy?
Facing?
He's not the prettiest guy in the world. No, he's not facing. This guy right here is who would become Major James Riley. Does that ring a bell anywhere? Yeah, and also he was at Fort Fisher, fought in the battles of Fort Fisher.
And he was the last.
Yes, ma'am. Command fell to him. He was the last commander of Confederate Fort Fisher. After Colonel Landfield and General Whiting fell in the battle, command fell to General Whiting here, and he actually gave one of the surrenders of Fort Fisher on January 15th, 1865. Well, this guy, guess where he was in January of 1861? He wasn't wearing this Confederate uniform you see down here. He was wearing a Union uniform at Fort Johnston and Fort Caswell. This guy was the ordnance sergeant that surrendered Fort Johnson and Fort Caswell to Hedrick and the Cape Fear Minutemen. And so what I like to say, and this is pushing it a little bit, but I like to say that the surrender of James Riley started the Civil War in North Carolina. And for all intents and purposes, his surrender ended the Civil War in North Carolina nearly 4 years later. So how many guys can say that?
So he was ordnance.
He was the U.S. Ordnance Sergeant.
Yeah, he was with the Union Army
Yes, ma'am.
in 61, and somewhere along the line he resigned his
Yes, ma'am.
commission and he wasn't commissioned, but went over to the Confederate.
Right after North Carolina seceded, he resigned his U.S. commission, got a commission in the Confederate Army. He fought with Lee in the Army of Northern Virginia for the first half of the war. And then finally he got sent down here where he was stationed at Fort Fisher for the rest of the war that he fought there in 2 battles. This guy became a famous Wilmingtonian after the Civil War. He would always take people down to the old ruins of Fort Fisher, give them tours, stuff like that. But so the Civil War in North Carolina has begun. It's the Civil War history of Fort Caswell, official Civil War history of Fort Caswell. And Governor Ellis really doesn't know what to do. I mean, things are chaotic at this time. And so finally, he gets this guy right here. Does anybody recognize him?
Whiting?
General W.H.C. Whiting, famously failed here at Fort Fisher. So immediately, but even before North Carolina officially seceded, he appoints General Whiting Inspector General of the Coastal Defenses of North Carolina with special attention to Fort Caswell. Fort Caswell and Fort Macon up near Beaufort were the only 2 fortifications in North Carolina at the outbreak of the war. By the end of the war, of course, they had built dozens. So he is sent down here to work on Fort Caswell and Fort Johnston, and he was giving orders to start erecting batteries and basically get this place in order for what's coming and what would come there 4 years later. But he was down here off and on throughout most of it. He got sent to Virginia. But this is the guy who pretty much built this place during the Civil War. Not just Fort Caswell. This guy commanded the entire district and later the department. He built what became this famous town during the Civil War. It became the second most heavily fortified city on the Atlantic seaboard next to Charleston, South Carolina. That was all covered. And what they did, and some of you guys have been to Fort Caswell. I just wanted to tell you real quick. What you know of Fort Caswell today is not what Fort Caswell was during the Civil War. The masonry fort was there, but what the Confederates did was they turned this place into a big sandcastle, pretty much. You can see here, this is a post-war shot of Fort Caswell. This is from the 1890s, well after the Civil War. And this is the interior of Fort Caswell, India. This was the citadel that used to be inside Fort Caswell. You see the little ladies down top, you see that? See that little lady right? But anyway, you can look in the background here, and you can see these mounds barely faintly off in the distance. These Confederates coated the masonry fort with the sand, and it pretty much literally turned into a huge sandcastle. Then they erected a whole separate fort outside Fort Caswell, around the back out here. This whole nother sand glacis. It's a big sand coating bridge. And that's not there today. They pushed all this into the moat around the turn of the 1900s. And so when you go there today, you see what Caswell looked like before. So during the Civil War, it turns into this totally different building. This is just another view on put in here. You can see Fort Caswell over here. You can see the big sand wall in front of the Confederate, of the old masonry fort right here. Can I see that?
What was built in 1830?
The masonry part. This part. Just when you go there today, and when you see pictures of Fort Caswell today, that's just a masonry structure. And that was built during the 1820s and 30s. And the Confederates, because these brick forts were outdated by the Civil War. So they coated these forts with sand. Just like Fort Fisher, it was a big sand castle. And that's what they turned Fort Caswell into. Oh, just one quick thing I want to throw in here too. Very interesting little tidbit I found at North Carolina State Archives when I was doing this research. And I'll read this to you because it's kind of hard to see. But it's County of Stantonville of Enos Jacobs, age 67 years, resident at Clinton, where I'm from, this spot. But Company F, 2nd Regiment, Tennessee Battalion. I was a colored workman at Fort Caswell in Fisher, it says over here, during the war. I threw up breastworks, rolled sand, and dug up turf to put over the sand to keep it from blowing away. I remained in the war until the close. I am old and need help. I can't get about to do anything. Scarce. This is an application for a pension. What you're looking at here is an application for pension for a black Confederate at Fort Caswell. And so there's a lot of question about, were there really black Confederates, you know? And the question is, now did they enlist because they wanted to? No, most of them not. But there were officially black Confederate soldiers who never had some right here in our backyards at Fort Caswell. No, he applied like 8 or 9 times, and he got turned down 3 times. And but go back and see this. He put like a different resume every time he applied. So I'm assuming that has something to do with it. But they're like, that's kind of people crap. But no, he never got a picture. He would put like, see, I don't even know what he means by 2nd Regiment NC Battery or Battalion. There wasn't a group like that down here. Now, there was a 2nd Artillery, the 36th North Carolina, who was at Fort Fisher in the area. They were called the 2nd Artillery. Is that what he means? Or, yeah. 2nd Regiment NC Battalion or Battery?
I'll add a little comment to that.
Yeah.
The last living North Carolina Confederate soldier was actually a black man. And he was from Salisbury, North Carolina. They had a big article about him, and he was like 105 or 6 when he died back in the 1950s.
Wow.
But anyway, he drew a pension for more than 50 years. He drew a pension, and on his income tax return, when he had to file income tax, he would put Confederate soldier retired. But anyway, he was he was well known. According to the article, they had a big article about him and pictures of him, and he was quite famous in the area. And he had actually, after the war, he went to work for the post office, but then he retired from the post office. But he was always proud of his being in the Confederate Army, and he drew that check for the rest of his life. As a matter of fact, even today, there's a woman in Georgia drawing a Confederate check every month. She is the last living Confederate widow, and she's 97 years old, and she was married to a Confederate soldier, and she's drawing his pension check right now today.
Wow.
So there's still a pension check going out for the Civil War.
Is it still $15?
No, I think it's several $100s now.
Okay.
But back then, if you were a Confederate soldier, you got like a pension check for like $60 a month. That was a fortune. And these young girls would marry your old tail to get that check. And that's the reason there was so many of them. I mean, there was a bunch of Confederate widows. This is the last one.
Yeah.
And she's still drawing his check to this very day.
My great grandfather was captured at Fort Fisher. He was in the 40s, North Carolina, and his daughter, who was from his second marriage, I'm from his first marriage. His daughter, his daughter from the second wife, who would be my half aunt. She just died. That's kind of hard to believe. Like that, the Civil War widow is still alive. Civil War veterans' children are still alive. Anyway, this is just a cross section. I want to show you real quick. In addition to the sand walls, they cut these masonry walls of sand. They encased these cannons at Fort Caswell. They weren't out in the open like you see, like at Fort Sumter. You see this cannon here. What they did was enclose them with big heavy timbers, and then put railroad iron on top. You see up here. And they coated basically the front half of Fort Caswell with railroad iron. You can imagine the sight of that place. First off, it's a big sand, it turns into a big sand castle. Then they flop railroad iron on top of all these batteries. This must have been a mean looking place, really. And just wanted to point out two more things about the Army, then I'm gonna stop with that. Does anybody recognize this?
Armstrong gun.
Armstrong rifle. Famous Armstrong rifle from Fort Fisher, which most of you guys probably seen. Well, Fort Caswell had one too. And so, this is a picture from the one in Fisher. You see this right here? This is the Fort Caswell Armstrong rifle at the Annapolis Naval Academy. Somewhere, I can't get a date on this, but you look at the guy's clothing and tell you it's not too far after there. But Fort Caswell had one too. And this is the other rifle I want to show you. This is the famous Whitworth rifle, which many guys recognize. And they're famous around here at Fort Fisher and Sullivan. Fort Caswell have one too. And these things will be towed up and down the beach around Fort Caswell and Fort Fisher and all up and down this district, protecting these stranded blockade runners who would run aground trying to get in the inlets here. And these things are very light. And these things can shoot up to upwards of 5 miles. And so these things were a terror to the U.S. blockade squad.
Incredibly accurate, I understand.
Yeah. They had, one guy said they had actually a telescopic rifle. Were amazing. I mean, they look like, the shells that they're bringing, they look like World War I projectiles almost. I mean, they're so advanced. They're breech loaders. You see here, they're loaded from the rear, something that very few Civil War cannons were.
They're always reckless?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. These were some of the most modern pieces of the war. I mean, these things can shoot 5 miles. Long ways. And unfortunately, most of these only shot a little 12-pound bolts. Look like a little football, about that big around. And apparently these things made a howling noise, screaming. I don't know how to describe it because I hadn't heard obviously about this. People try to describe it as this howling scream when these projectiles are shot from this thing. And it really scared the U.S. sailors out there, when it did anything. It didn't really cause them damage. These things were a terror. But these days, soldier life in Fort Caswell is something that you guys can imagine. I mean, as you guys know, there wasn't a big battle around here until the end of the Civil War, you know, with Fort Fisher, and it wasn't Fort Caswell. So what did these Fort Caswell soldiers do for 4 years? You know, these guys, what it really breaks down to is these guys were work ants. It's really what these guys, that's what their life was at Fort Caswell. These guys piled up sand all day, mounted cannons, you know, mounted up railroad iron. This is a great shot we just shot over in Lexington, North Carolina. Sergeant at 40 North Carolina, just newly discovered picture. But he was at Fort Caswell. But you know, these guys, you know, had one heck of a life. Ate bad food, bad pork, you know, hardtack, that stuff that can stop a bullet, as they say. These biscuits that would break your teeth off. Basically, the only action that these guys at Fort Caswell ever saw was an occasional duel with a U.S. blockader. Depicted here. You see Fort Caswell over here on Oak Island. If you look closely, you see old body sticking up right there. You'll see that? That's a little body there, and what would be Fort Holmes over here. This is supposed to be a U.S. blockader that shot at Fort Caswell. I wasn't shot at a cannonball dropping in the water.
So Caswell was attacked by the...
Not really. They were shelled periodically. Not an actual battle. They would have duels back and forth all the time. Like when a blockade runner would come in, try to get through the inlet here, the blockaders would chase them, and Fort Caswell would open up on them to try to stop them, and they would go back and forth. There were a couple pretty spirited engagements, but nothing really.
Jeff,
Yeah.
those blockade runners that made it through there and went up to Wilmington, on the trip back out, why didn't the North send a ship after those ships, chase them down and confiscate the ship?
Well, they would try to. They would try their best to, but they do the same game coming out as they did going in.
I mean, after they came out, why didn't the North assign a ship to chase them down?
I got you. I'm sorry. Pure speed of the blockade runners, pretty much. They would try to run back. Oh, yes, sir. These things were built for one thing, for speed. They weren't even armed because they take up so much weight, you know, and slow them down. These things, a lot of them, are the better ones, were steam propelled.
And they were empty coming out.
Yeah, well, no. It depended. A lot of them would load up with cotton and naval stores to come out. But either way, nearly all the blockade runners were much faster than big, bulky, loaded down U.S. blockade ships. But what the U.S. fleet did was they started to capture one or two here and there. You know, early on, so what they do, they capture these blockade runners, put guns on them, turn them into blockaders. And so slowly things started to turn around. And by the end of the Civil War, most of the blockade runners had been destroyed, captured, or converted. And very few blockade runners survived.
What was Caswell originally built for?
Just the same reason it was during the Civil War, to protect this inlet here. It was built right after the War of 1812, and it was built in the same room as Fort Sumter, Fort Pulaski, Moultrie,
Macon.
Fort Macon. All of these forts were built in the exact same period. Because up to that time, we had no defenses on them. See, in the War of 1812, the British, you know, burned Washington, and wreaked havoc on the coast. And so after the end of the war, these guys were like, hey, we got to do something. You know, we can't have our White House being burnt every war. So they started building these forts up and down the coast. And, you know, drill, as you see here, was the everyday life. These guys drill a couple of times a day. Once in the morning, usually once or twice in the afternoon. And this is actually the 20th North Carolina at present-day Southport. What's called Smithfield during the day. And these are the guys on the drill that are going in the war. There's a good story I want to read you guys real quick talking about soldier life here and what these guys did. You gotta think about it, these guys are totally inexperienced. These guys are a bunch of farmers, work hands, merchants, you know. These guys don't know anything about war when they first get in this thing. And so you can imagine how clumsy and chaotic the soldier life was, at least early on. Found a great story from a guy at the station at Fort Caswell, right, the regional exit. I very well remember being on picket one night right on the coast beside Fort Caswell. The line of pickets that night was perhaps 2 miles long, and the number of pickets in charge of a comm officer about 30. My beat was near the water's edge on the hard white sand from which the tide had receded but a few hours before. Our respective beats were about 100 yards each, and the instructions were that should anything suspicious be seen or heard, the one making the discovery was to immediately fire off his gun as alarms the entire line, which was to be at once followed by the firing of every picket down the line to alarm everybody. Then the pickets were to leave their beats and assemble at the point where the first gun was fired to ascertain the cause of the alarm, arouse the garrison, etc. On the night alluded to, an Irishman was on beat with me. And we passed back and forth. We frequently accosted each other in a pleasant way to help whittle away the hours. I think I'm boring picket duty as we're walking up and down the beach with a rifle. Just before midnight, I noticed a light appear in the east over the ocean, and was congratulating myself that I was about to witness what I'd never seen before, a moonrise on the Atlantic Ocean. This guy was in the interior of North Carolina. As the brightness increased in the eastern horizon, and I was getting ready to break forth in exclamations of delight at the beautiful and to me unusual scene, my friend the Irishman just on my left called to me to fire off my gun. I asked him why, and pointing to what I supposed to be the rising moon, he said, "Look at that war steamer coming in. She'll up and fire upon us in Fort Caswell in a few minutes." I told him my impressions were otherwise, but he said he had been there a long time before me and knew the difference between a war steamer and a moonrise. I was still somewhat skeptical in regard to this theory of the phenomenon being correct, but I thought I might possibly be mistaken. So, however, I remarked to my friend the Irishman as we were together that I would save my load, and if he was so sure that that light was a war steamer, to fire off his weapon. And he did. Pop, 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 up and down the picket line went. And in a few minutes, the pickets and the officer of the night came running up from the right and left to finally call the alarm. The chagrin of my friend the Irishman can be imagined when I state that the moon, for a moon it was, and got clear up out of the water and was hanging there in all of its brightness above the Atlantic Ocean. By the time the garrison at the fort had been aroused and were out on the parapet awaiting the immediate attack, my gun was loaded, the only one loaded on the line after the alarm until the pickets were loaded. In a little while, everything resumed its former status. Oh, and by the way, Patty discovered no more war steamers during our stay at the fort. You gotta think about this. These guys don't know any better. They don't know anything about the military or war. I mean, they've been picking, planting tobacco, picking cotton, working on the farm the whole lives. But actually, a very exciting event finishing up, so polite. This guy right here, some of you guys recognize, this is old JD, Jeff Davis, president of the Confederacy. He came down here in November of 1863 during the middle of the war. And he went to Fort Caswell and Fort Fisher and other forts in the area. And they gave him a big multi-gun salute. And Jeff Davis gave a little speech, inspirational speech. And after he left, the soldier, I've got a good collection of soldier letters from there now, and there's this great letter this guy wrote home to his parents. And he's trying to tell them about old Massa Davis, as they call him, visiting the fort. And he's like, these are exact words. He says, I can't think of any better way to describe him, but he looks so much like a postage stamp more than anything else. It's funny that you look back on it, you're like, you know what? That is probably the only time they ever saw a picture of this guy was in postage stamps. And most of them got that. But I'm gonna tell you real quick here, just about what my pretty much overall theme with this project is. I'm going to do a book on this year. There, it was just by a weird twist of fate that the big attack didn't come to Fort Caswell versus Fort Fisher. There were 4 or 5 major planned attacks on Fort Caswell that just, for various reasons, fell through. And I'm not going to go into detail on these because it's going to bore you guys. But one thing I just want to point out basically is a little known fact. You guys heard of the Monitor? I think it was ironclad that sunk and was in the process of being raised off our coast here. That thing was in motion from Fort Wilmington and probably, most definitely, Fort Caswell when it sank. And we can't prove that definitively, but most of the evidence says that thing was in motion, en route to Fort Caswell, to attack Fort Caswell and Wilmington when it sank. Once again, I said it was fate. Caswell escaped. And there were other planned attacks, like I told you I'm not going to go into, like landing troops south of Fort Caswell and come up behind like they did at Battery Wagner in Charleston. The movie Glory. You guys seen that movie? And there are also proposals to land troops on Bald Head Island, put mortar batteries around Old Baldy, and bombard Fort Caswell, Old Smith's Island. And that way, but there's many planned attacks like this that it's almost, it's amazing almost that attack never came before. And there were other reasons too. Really what happened as far as Wilmington is concerned, the supplies and ships and troops got caught up everywhere else in amphibious operations. Like in Charleston, the U.S. government really wanted to capture Charleston. And that was good for Wilmington because that left Wilmington wide open until then. And there's a good quote, I wrote it down. U.S. official, when they're trying to decide, do we attack Wilmington, Fort Caswell, and Fort Fisher, do we attack Charleston? And the guy said, we should be inclined to skip Fort Caswell, for the fall of Charleston is the fall of Satan's kingdom. So, now you see why these guys really wanted Charleston. That's why they started attacking Charleston in the summer of '63, or spring of '63. On through, February '65. Took 2 years to take those guys. But that was good for Fort Caswell, Fort Fisher, and Wilmington, because that left this place wide open, basically, blockade lines. And I just want to show you this real quick. You guys heard about the powder boat experiment?
Yeah.
Down at Fort Fisher? Butler's experiment, as they go. Butler's Folly, Butler's Fizzle. This is it. This is the USS Louisiana that was eventually exploded right off, from Fort Fisher in December of 1864 to much failure, as most of you guys know. And what the plan was, blow this thing up with a whole bunch of gunpowder and float from the fort and explode it. And level the walls of the fort and kill most of the defenders up there. Well, most of you guys know this story. It did not work. But this thing was originally intended for Fort Caswell, not Fort Fisher. And only when they found that they couldn't get it close enough to Fort Caswell, they decided to build it at Fort Fisher. And all these failed attacks led one Caswell soldier to say, I feel as if wolf has been cried too often. Because these guys did all these attacks on them. Their rumors spread around, but then nothing ever happened. In 1864, that soldier said that. And I love that quote because it was not a month later that 58 warships showed up outside the back door. But wolf has been cried too often. As you got... Anyway. But as you guys know, they quit crying wolf. They back that up. They quit crying wolf. And the major attack on Fort Fisher, as you see here, eventually came. Like I said, for different reasons, it came to Fort Fisher, not Fort Caswell. Yeah. And I'm going to share, I told you one main reason. But the other a good reason they really didn't Fort Caswell is really because of logistic reasons. I mean, think about it. If you come up here and attack Fort Fisher, you cut off everything else that's below Fort Fisher. See what I mean? If you come down here and you attack Fort Caswell and Fort Holmes on Baldhead Island here, well, look what else you got to do. You got to come upriver, then attack Fort Fisher from the rear. Attack Fort or what became Fort Pender, just Fort Johnson, over there at Smithfield. Battery Lamb over there behind Fort Fisher, where Sunny Point is now. That's Battery Lamb. And so that's really one of the big reasons it came into play here. You go ahead, you attack Fort Fisher first. If you capture New Inlet, Old Inlet's useless. So you can kill two birds with one stone by attacking Fort Fisher versus Fort Caswell. That's really one of the main reasons. Also, a big reason why they attacked Fort Caswell versus Fort Fisher is exactly what Fort Fisher was. Fort Fisher was the largest earthen fortification in the Confederacy. War's winding down. Everybody knows it. This is January 65, into 64. Everybody knows war's winding down. And the Navy has kind of this chip on its shoulder. Because they really haven't got a lot of recognition during the Civil War. They feel they've been overlooked at Vicksburg and New Orleans and all these naval operations. And so why not go out with a bang? Why not go have one all-out effort, big display against the Confederacy's largest, most powerful fortification? A good chance to get some of that glory back that they've been missing the whole war.
Yeah, where was Sherman at this time?
Sherman was coming up. That played a big role in the Wellington campaign. In fact, in the second attack, that's one of the big reasons that the second attack succeeded, because Grant didn't really care much about the first assault. But the second assault, Sherman had turned north and was going to come up through the Carolinas, meet up with Grant around Richmond to help destroy Robert E. Lee. So Grant wanted to give Sherman a safe haven on the eastern seaboard in case he got in trouble during his march to the Carolinas. And so that's why the second assault, because that had a big part to do with the second assault. They wanted to capture Wilmington for Sherman's safety. If he got in trouble, he could retreat to Wilmington for safety, be evacuated. That answer? Yeah. But about this time during the second assault, he's coming up. He's January. I guess he would still be in North and South Carolina by this point. Because he was at Bentonville by March. So, but yeah, it had a lot to do with it. And so, most of you guys know the story about Fort Fisher. I'm going to be running down here 10 minutes ago. But Fort Fisher falls. They just saw that deep in the battle there, January 15th, 1865. And like I showed you, the fall of Fort Fisher rendered all the forts below it useless. They had cut off New Inlet north above Fort Caswell and Old Inlet. And so, the harbor's no more use. And so, General Braxton Bragg, does that name ring a bell? Infamous guy. But he orders all the forts to the mouth of the Cape River evacuated. That's exactly what happens. And they commanded Fort Caswell to evacuate all soldiers down to the beach or into the woods behind Fort Caswell. And you know how things were in those days. When you evacuate something, you destroyed it, so they wouldn't fall into the hands of the enemy. And so they laid powder trains to the powder magazines at Fort Caswell and Fort Holmes. Baldhead Island was evacuated too. All these forts were evacuated. And they wait for the signal. They wait for the final order to light those powder trains and destroy the fort.
Was Fort Bragg named after Bragg?
Yes, sir. General Bragg. He was a North Carolina from Warrington. How it became known as Fort Bragg, what's so good about it, I had to figure out. That's a whole other story.
His brother was governor.
Yeah, or was he governor?
Yeah.
So maybe it was governor. But this guy here, this is Captain John Newland Moffett. You guys know his name? Famous blockade runner during the Civil War.
Up here in the river.
Really?
And that was called the Moffin.
Is it a
Excursion boat and that was Moffin.
Is it called Moffett? I didn't know. But this guy, these blockade runners were so good. Moffett, even after Fort Fisher fallen and the inlets are being evacuated, Moffett makes it in to Old Inlet. and docks at Fort Caswell. And you think it's kind of strange because, there aren't any lights on, the signal guys aren't signaling to them, and it's kind of still, kind of eerie. And so as soon as he pulls up to the dock, the ordnance sergeant at Fort Caswell, a guy named Eugene S. Martin, was buried back there, that was up there. He comes running up to the dock, he's like, man, you gotta get out of here, quick. He said, Fort Fisher's falling, we're evacuating up Wilmington. He said, go back to the where it came from. And so he hops back in his boat, the Owl, blockade runner, the Owl is what it's called, and makes it back out the inlet, back through the blockade, and makes it back, where did he go?
Galveston, Texas.
Did he go to Texas?
Yeah.
Okay. And makes it back to Texas. And that's how good these guys were. Even after Fort Fallen, makes it in. And so then finally, 2 nights after Fort Fisher fell, the night after Fort Fisher fell, the order came down the river. Light powder trains. Let's get out of here. Eugene S. Martin and the ordnance crew at Fort Caswell, light powder trains, and run for their lives, basically. And 100,000 pounds of gunpowder in Fort Caswell's main magazine. That's reported. I don't know if I believe it. That's kind of a... Fort Caswell magazine didn't have near that much. Fort Fisher magazine didn't have near that much of an explosion. So I doubt Fort Caswell's had 100,000. But anyway, point being, a lot of gunpowder erupted and absolutely devastated Fort Caswell. And as you see, this is actually a depiction of the Fort Fisher magazine explosion. And you can go there today. For you guys who have been there, did you guys notice how a section of that wall was missing? Who was it that had been there? You can go there today, though, and there's this big gap in the east wall of the brick fort, the masonry fort. That's from that. That's from the magazine explosion when they evacuated that place. And it actually shattered windows in Smithfield and shook the foundations in Wilmington and was heard as far inland as Fayetteville, 100 miles inland. That's how big the explosion was. Go ahead. As this thing was exploding, I love this quote from Admiral David D. Porter, who led the attack on Fort Fisher. He said, the death knell of another fort is booming in the distance. Fort Caswell with its powerful batteries is in flames and being blown up, and thus is sealed the door through which this rebellion is fed. It's a good quote to show you how important Caswell is here. But the first Yankee to set foot on Fort Caswell since 1861 was this guy right here. And this guy name is William Barker Cushing, a very famous Civil War figure. This is kind of, it's what Dr. Palmer calls the Brad Pitt of the Civil War. Most of you guys, a lot of you guys know Nancy and Dr. Palmer. Nancy said if he were alive today, that Chris would be in trouble. But this guy, back then, military guys were the heroes. But it wasn't actors. Well, they didn't have plays, but it wasn't like pop culture today. These guys were the heroes, the military guys. And this guy was as famous, if not more so, as Brad Pitt during the Civil War. And that's another lie. The guy who sunk the CSS Albemarle, made famous raised it. But he raised the first American flag over Fort Caswell on January 17th, 1865. Go ahead, Jim. Actually, go back one second. And when he was there, 2 more blockade runners made it into Old Inlet. And little Cushing here, this guy was slick. He went up to the signal. They had these signal machines, at Fort Caswell and Fort Fisher that would signal the blockade runners. They would tell them, okay, come on in. Well, he got up there, signaled these blockade runners, just messing around, and got them to come in, lured them in, and captured them. Captured 2 blockade runners on the spot. This guy. And the spot. Go ahead, but anyway, after you guys know the story about the Wilmington campaign here, Wilmington finally fell about a month later. And the Caswell soldiers and all the other soldiers who survived the Wilmington campaign went on up and eventually fought at Bentonville. And most of the guys from Old Inlet, from Fort Hall and Fort Caswell, they were known as the Red Infantry at the Battle of Bentonville because these guys are artillery guys. They have, red stripes on their collars, chevrons. And infantry guys don't have that, so they look kind of funny, carrying a musket and fighting as the infantry, and they had on artillery uniforms. But these guys suffered very much at the Battle of Bentonville. They fought under a guy named Lieutenant Colonel John Douglas Taylor, who commanded Fort Caswell one time. And and they sustain like 50% casualties. That the red infantry guys from Caswell homes and runs in. Got it. Fishing up here. That's just a depiction of a mower's charge at about Bentonville. These guys. But after the war, this place just pretty much rotted for many years. And this is a shop from around the 1890s. I'm not sure. I think this might be a Sunday school class or something. Maybe you guys can help me out with this. It's kind of hard to see. But these are a lot of ladies with some kids gathered around the entrance to Fort Caswell here. And you can see the old Confederate fort, all the earth that piled up here. But this place kind of became a place to go hang out. Have picnics and stuff like that.
This is the second shot. Are those like stereoptics? Stereoptic. How you say that? Stereoptic views. Yes, ma'am. There's another shot showing, you see the masonry part of Fort Caswell out here, showing the Confederate sandcastles up here pretty much. You can see these people standing up here again. Let's go hang out, get pictures. This is a shot from 1913, right before it was reactivated during World War I. And you can see the Confederate part of Fort Caswell is now gone. That sand coating that was in front of the fort out here in front of the mud, that's now been pushed in. And you can see there's a sheep just like out there. Look at these buildings. There are buildings all over the top of this thing. See that over there? Trees. And I said they sent a rocket until World War III. And this is today, Fort Caswell today, taken by myself. And on top of Fort Caswell. And this is looking down into where the Citadel would have been, that building inside you saw. And all this would have been coated with sand during the Civil War. And this actually, we can go there today and see these World War I and II gun emplacements. This is places used during World War I and II, very much so. And this is that gaping hole in the wall I was telling you about that was destroyed during the magazine explosion during the Civil War. And once again, you see the gun emplacements from World War I and II built inside the old Fort Caswell. And this shot is through in the last slide. And these guys over Fort Caswell over the years, the spirit can get bored, I guess, and Mr. Leslie can help me with this, but they'll do they find stuff over there all the time. Right? And the last time I know of, they had some backhoes laying around and excavated part of all the mud from Fort Caswell. When was this, Mr. Leslie? 2 years ago? And this is just a little small hint of what they dug out. All these are cannonballs. This is I think it's a trunnion wheel from a cannon. I think it's a cup. And Nathan Henry down at the archaeology lab, guy down there messing with sometimes, he got this cup, going to preserve it, and it's got JH written on the bottom. And so I'm going to go through and try to find out who this guy is, but it's hard to tell because it's a U.S. issue cup. There's no telling when it's from close to use it. But that's it, guys. Just want to share with you, just want to share with you the story that, there was this whole other story going on. Not just from Fisher, but there's much more to tell, still much more to be known about this area, especially Fort Caswell. I thank you guys for it. Oh, thank you. And I can take her out there with that big question.
I think you should introduce you.
Hey, okay, step up here.
Yes, thank you.
This is my girlfriend, Jessica Boone. 6.5 years. She's been putting up with me for 6.5 years since I was a senior in high school. She was 15 when we started going out. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
I'll entertain you. Thank you. I'm going to have refreshments. If you have any questions, please feel free to answer them.
They were issued.
They check off these days.
Yeah, I got the rest of
I thought you were talking. Keep going, girl.